everyone, I'm going to do a book review today, or rather I've got 3 books that I'm going to share with you that I've pulled off of my expansive bookshelf. And to be honest, I bought this one and I don't think I've really looked at it properly. So this is called Contemporary Landscapes in Mixed Media by Soraya French. Soraya French is an Iranian artist known for her really vivid use of colour in acrylic, but also based in multimedia as well. She's produced 6 books, and on her homepage of her website it says that she's an international artist and author based at project workshops in the UK. She also demonstrates for Golden acrylics, and runs private art workshops. I will leave a link to her website and any other social media that I can find for her down below. But let's get started. I mean, just look at the front cover, for example. Whoa. I'm going to tell you, this is bright, it's cheerful. All of the paintings have that really bright element to them. It kind of reminds me a little bit of where I used these very bright colours the other day on one of my videos. And I must say, I'm really loving the red and the blue, the contrast of that sort of turquoisey blue, and then this lovely red and reddy orange colour, almost viridian or vermilion. Take that back. Right, this book is from 2017, and the contents of the book show us that we're going to be looking at materials and techniques and some mark making. Then the creative process, there's a demonstration of a summer meadow, and then a project choosing your format. Then beyond the surface, so texture effects. So project 3 is stamps and stencils. We've got collage and a demonstration on a Caribbean beach, and then different colours through the seasons, which I think is rather nice. So this is really drawing me in at the moment. It's all about colour for me rather than what it is that I'm painting. So there's a little introduction and a little bit about the aim of the book, hoping that the passion and enthusiasm that went into the book will inspire those of us that are reading through it. What else does she say? Don't feel overwhelmed by the amount of information and the array of art materials. You don't need them all. Instead, treat the book as a source of reference to try out new ways of using the materials as and when you come across them, or perhaps things I'm adding to this, that's not what it says in here, but perhaps things that you haven't been using in your kind of supply of things. And what is happening there? We've gone out of focus. Let's pause and sort that out. Okay, back again. Oh, it's done it again. It's when I put my hands in, I think. Okay, hopefully I have now fixed the Droid Cam. So here we go. Look at this. This is called Violet Sky, and it's just stunning. So let's carry on. We've got a little bit of a personal note, and then this little picture here called Autumn Hedgerow. Discovering your unique artistic voice, which many of us are still struggling to find. And this one is called Summer Hedgerow. We've got A little bit on materials and techniques. Look at this, daisies on the cliff top. I just love the way that these are kind of bits floating out into the sea. So we've got a bit on acrylics and a bit about beyond the brushes. So try scraping the paint with a card, applying it with your fingers or a palette knife. So there's some suggestions there that I'm not going to go into. There's a bit on acrylic inks. I have done a picture very similar to that. It's upstairs in my dressing room. Fluid acrylics. That one's kind of got so much movement, hasn't it? Seashore fireworks. Yes, that makes sense. Acrylics with an extended open time. So acrylics that stay wet for longer. Okay, so I think they're like the interactive acrylics, like the Atelier, for example. They stay wet for much longer. What have we got next? Using watercolors, using gouache. I mean, the colours that she chooses just jump off the page. They are just wonderful. This one's called Hogweed. We've got a little bit on using pastels in our mixed media. Derelict Balms. Oil pastels. Crayons and pencils. I'm just really drawn towards these colours at the moment. Spray paints even. This one's called Fishing Nets. Isn't that lovely? Combining different media together. So we've got some examples here. Number one was a prepared ground with texture paste, heavy body acrylics, oil pastel, and accents of colour. Then number two is wax crayons over washes of ink to enhance their colours, plus oil pastels used as a resist. Number three, royal blue soft pastel applied over dark blue acrylic to enhance the colour. And number four, acrylic ink over sculpted extra heavy gel enhanced with colourful wax crayons. So giving us lots of nice ideas. We've got a bit on mark making and then some examples of mark making. Look at this woodland study. We mustn't be afraid of colour is what this is teaching me today. A little bit on the creative process next. Hampshire yellow fields. We get lots of these. I mean, this could be Norfolk, except the sky would need to be bigger. Sources, a little bit about sources of inspiration, and then painting and sketching outdoors. A lovely bit about composition here, talking about how we can get balance, rhythm, variety, and emphasis, and then the subordination. So much like that dominant colour and then the subordinate colour that I did from Stephen Quiller's book on one of my other videos. Unity throughout the painting. Simplification, reducing the subject to the most significant elements. Structure. So yeah. Cropping and editing. Or if we don't want to use technology, we can just cut them up. What else have we got here? Lost and found edges. See, this is lovely. Rainbow Woods, this is called. And then some negative shapes. And we've got the tulips in the woods, which is splendid. The power of underpainting. I call it the undercoat. You'll have heard me use that phrase several times, but that's what we're talking about here. And you can see how the undercoat is showing through in various places. She's chosen naphthol red light as the underpainting. Brilliant. Hazy light. Wow. Then we've got a demonstration of a summer meadow. Oh, I really feel like I should have a go at this. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. In this detail of the finished painting, you can clearly see that despite many layers and dabs of cooler colours, it was maintained, the little fragments of red still coming through to warm up the whole image. I mean, it's quite interesting to see how we move from that to this, isn't it? The finished painting. Knowing that we started off with a red square. Very interesting. Project number 2, choosing the format of your painting. This one is called Yellow Fields. This one is called Summer Fields and Turquoise Sky. So this is about deciding, you know, do we want a square? Do we want landscape? Do we want portrait? Do we want it, you know, not just portrait, but a skinny portrait, so to speak? Yeah, choosing the format that we're going to use. Not necessarily sticking to A3, A5, etc. Beyond the surface, some texture effects. So we can choose our surface and then we can decide what textures we're going to use. There's a bit on gesso as a texture. Experimenting with other grounds, acrylics as your ground for pastels, absorbent and watercolor grounds. We've got acrylic gel mediums, using regular gel, heavy and extra heavy gels. I'm going to have to read this because I'm not sure what some of these are, but anyway, clear tar gel. I've never heard of that. Oh, she calls it a funky gel. Okay. Gels with aggregates, so pumice gels. We've got this Pebble Beach that was achieved. Then we've got glass bead gel. I never knew that there were all of these. Clear granular gel. Look at that, echinacea. Beautiful. And then we've got acrylic pastes, moulding pastes. And all the different types down the bottom here. Fibre paste, crackle paste. I've got crackle paste. Creativity with stamps and stencils. Then adding collage. And collage materials that we might use. How to apply the collage. Iridescent colours. Ooh. Sometimes a painting just sings out for a bit of gold or a bit of silver or something. Interference colours. Look at this harbour by night. Wow. Getting creative with unusual colour. So here we've got these interference and iridescent colours. And then we've got another little demonstration to do called the Caribbean Beach. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And then we've got our finished painting. Colour through the seasons. This is lovely, isn't it? It kind of goes through the seasons on one page. The 4 seasons. Choosing your colours. Basic modern colours, basic classic colours. I seem to be more drawn towards the modern colours, I have to say. Apologies for my cough that is lingering from whatever COVID lurgy thing I managed to pick up. Spring. Subtle spring colour palette. Striking combinations. So if you're struggling to come up with particular palettes, it looks like this is going to be really nice. A touch of spring, sunlit woodland, field of crocuses. Then we move into summer, and we've got some summer combinations, colour palette. Oh, I love that. Oh, that is really doing it for me. Oh. Cornish cliff top painting process. Then we move on to autumn. I mean, that really does give you a feel of autumn, and I would never have thought of using what looks like lavender in an autumn picture. But we've got our autumn palette, some colour combinations, stunning, beautiful. And then we've got a painting process for the autumn hedgerow. Oh, and winter. I'm always drawn towards winter. I think I like autumn and winter the most from a painting perspective. This is beautiful. Winter palette. Look at this. And this is not typical either, really. Quite often we see paintings that are very neutral when it comes to winter. And then the painting process for this snowstorm picture. And then we've just got a colourful coastline here on the end. So there we go. That is Contemporary Landscapes in Mixed Media by Soraya French. Well worth having a look at, even if you don't work in mixed media. Just giving you some wonderful different colourways to think about. Let's move on to the next book. The next book is called The Watercolor Enigma, a complete painting course revealing the secrets and science of watercolor by Stephen Coates. So let's have a little look at that one. So a little bit about Stephen Coates then. Born in Sheffield. Apparently he was told to forget about art at school. So he spent 16 years in the music industry and another 16 years running his own sandwich business before he decided to disregard everything that his teachers had told him. And in April 2011, he turned professional as an artist and tutor. So good to know that we can start something later on in our lives. So let's have a look at how he's gone about doing this book then. So this was first published in 2014, this particular edition 2018. Okay, so contents: the science of the medium, the science of watercolor, what you will need, initial exercises and paintings, which includes feeling and fluidity, learning to blend in squares and circles, pebbles on the sand, across the bay, and red sail reflections. So there's 5 exercises that are teaching things. Then we've got understanding colour and mixing. We've got the final 2 paintings, which is Lake in the Snow and Peak District Walk. So they're all building on what you've already learnt before. Conclusion and gallery. So let's have a little look. We've got our introduction. The science of the medium. The very thing that attracts people to want to paint with watercolours is that the effects they produce cannot be achieved with any other medium. And I think that's why watercolour will always be my first love. It was how I started painting. And so when I go to use other mediums like acrylics and gouache, for example, they don't seem to do the effects that I want them to do. But I do still enjoy the other mediums. Okay, so we've got the watercolor paradox. It's common for those new to painting to choose watercolors instead of other mediums. Obviously, it's cheaper to set up with watercolors, and secondly, using oils and acrylics quite often involves large canvases, easels, huge brushes, yeah, so he says, I'm sorry to shatter your illusions, but therein lies the paradox. Few beginners realize that the watercolor medium is regarded as the most difficult of them all. So here we go. I'm not going to read all the way through it, but we've got, you know, the properties of water and paint interacting, water, friend or foe, taking control of the water, panels, some exercises for you to do to help to get control of the water, 2 principal painting methods, wet on dry, wet on wet, and then talks about controlling the blend, wash and dab. He talks about things being too wet, too dry, or just right. Reminds me of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. The 2-minute rule and what that really means. Equipment and materials. Warning. I love this. There's a great big warning here. Whichever paper you choose, the quality is very important. Lots of stationery shops with budget price watercolor pads. They're often less than half the price of a branded paper. Please be careful. Budget price watercolor is usually very poor quality, often to the point of being totally useless. It's too porous and uncoated. It soaks up water far too quickly, and it leaves you with no time at all to blend. So there we go. That's his viewpoint. Then we've got a bit about brushes and paints in pans or tubes, a little bit about gouache as well, other useful equipment that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then it goes on to the initial exercises and paintings. So feeling the fluidity, the first stroke, adding more water, etc. Learning to blend in squares and circles. So I think, you know, this is rather, I might read this. Maybe I could do my swatching a tad better. Introducing another colour. Troubleshooting our wet on wet circles. Then we've got this pebbles on sand. So these are all exercises. Please read and digest all the instructions at each stage before proceeding with the painting. I like these warnings. Making a plan, assembling your equipment, and then it talks about the brushes, the feel of the brushes, and then goes on for our exercise. You know, he's using these exercises to show how we can do some splatting to represent grains of sand. We can lift the paint off, unless it's a very staining colour, of course. Painting pebbles. That reminds me of Natasha Newton, who, when I first started watching her, always used to paint pebbles as her swatches. Then we've got Across the Bay, and making a preliminary, get that right, sketch. And it takes us through stage by stage by stage. There's little tips as well as those warnings, painting the headlands, final details with our, what I call carrot people. Then we've got red sail reflections. I think I've done this one a long while ago. So I obviously did start using this, painting the boat, and then how to get these final details in. And it says you've got several options, so that's quite nice to know, isn't it? And then taking it further, rather nice. Colour and mixing. There we go, bit on colour mixing. This is quite nice. I love the red, blue and yellow. Which ones is he using? Does he say? Ah, here we go. Lemon yellow. He'll be using lemon yellow. Probably light red. Looks like he's using cerulean. Okay. Black and white, using the white of the paper. And then taking it further. So, you know, still using the techniques that you've learned to do the boat. Adding to those techniques. The final two paintings. This looks lovely. Lake in the snow. Warning, warning. Panels and planning. Watercolor techniques that are going to be needed. And then the exercise. Really simple drawing. Masking fluid we're using on this one. First wash. And then building up from that. I rather like these trees. They've got atmosphere with those colours, which is rather lovely. Painting the snow, final details. And there we have our wonderful final painting. What have I put here? Burnt sienna, ultramarine. I obviously was looking something up at that particular point. So the Peak District walk. I love the fact that you get, this is what you're going to need. You know, you get the photograph that was being used. And, you know, I'm just going to flick through these. But I think it's rather lovely. I can see he's using quite a limited colour palette in most of these. We've even got framing your painting, look. Conclusion and gallery. The way you hold a brush, the movement of your hand, the choice of equipment, the colours and techniques used, all will lead to an individual style. How interesting. There we go. Maybe that's a definition that might help you. What to take away. The power of doodling. Sketching with a brush. Love these little vignettes here. Final words. You know, without even reading all of that. Practice, practice, practice. Do some painting every day. That's stunning as well. And here's our little art gallery. Really lovely, really lovely. I like the way that he's set those exercises out. So there we are. You can see this is what it looked like previously. This is the latest version, but it was more on a landscape style. But there we go. The Watercolor Enigma, a complete painting course by Stephen Coates. And it is like a course, basically. So perhaps that's one I should be working my way through. Finally, book number 3 is not an art book at all. It's a book, a storybook, if you like, called Together by Luke Adam Hawker. And it's says here, a monumental storm brings huge and sudden change. We follow a man and his dog through the uncertainty that it brings to their lives. Through their eyes, we see difficulties of being apart, the roller coaster of emotions that we can all relate to, and the realization that by pulling together, we can move through difficult times with new perspective, hope, and an appreciation of what matters most in life. I have a feeling this came out during COVID. First published 2021. Yeah. And, you know, there are links to how we might have all felt being isolated during COVID. I'm not going to read the story to you. What I want to show you are these beautiful, brilliant sketches. If you are into sketching, then I think this book could be quite inspirational. Look at some of these. I love this. When will it come? How long will it last? It's hard not having all the answers. And I think, you know, it obviously applied or was linked to COVID at the time, but we could think about it in other ways as well. But stunning, stunning, very sort of quite detailed. And look at this one. We were adrift. And then there's this distance between the words and this figure with the dog. And that's just really quite powerful, that kind of blank page. So I won't do the whole book. It's hard to be separated. We felt so far apart. Yeah, people just looking out their windows. Being alone doesn't have to feel lonely. If you are into your sketching, I think that there's some really nice sketches here. That's really quite powerful, isn't it? Like a block of flats and all these people alone, separate in their flats. Our homes became dance halls, classrooms and bakeries. And many people turned to, you know, doing things on YouTube and various other social media platforms at that time when we were in lockdown. In slowing down, we woke up to the most important things of all. We began to understand that the sun was still there, rising, setting, waiting, even when the clouds were at their darkest. We marvelled at nature and drew comfort from trees that had weathered storms for decades and still stood strong. Their endurance reassured us. I think many of us kind of miss, actually, and part of me misses the simplicity of it all. And I think I got outside once we were allowed outside much more through COVID. Now I seem to end up filling my time doing so many other things, but and that's rather lovely, isn't it? It's all just grayscale or monochrome or whatever we want to call it. But I think it's a rather lovely book. It reminds me of that time through COVID, and I really love the pictures in this book, the sketching. So there we are, Together by Luke Adam Hawker. So 3 books. I will leave links to, and if I can find their websites or social media sites, anything like that, I will put them in the links below too. So I hope you found those of interest, and I really enjoyed sharing just 3 of my very, very many books that I have on my bookshelf. Okay, see you again. Take care, everyone.